In this video, we are going to learn about reciprocals. To obtain the reciprocal of a fraction, all we need to do is flip the fraction. What does this mean? This means that we need to interchange the numerator and denominator of the fraction. To understand this, let us consider an example. Let us consider the fraction 3/7. So first of all, we need to consider the numerator of this fraction. Now the numerator is the number on top of the fraction, so that will mean that 3 is the numerator of this fraction. Next, consider the denominator of this fraction. Now the denominator is the number on the bottom, and the number on the bottom is 7. So the denominator of this fraction is 7. Now what we want to do is interchange the numerator and denominator of the fraction. So we're going to write the fraction line, and the numerator 3 is going to become the new denominator, and the denominator 7 is going to become the new numerator. And this will be the required reciprocal of 3/7. That is, the fraction 7/3 is the reciprocal of 3/7. One important property we need to remember is that the product of any fraction and its reciprocal will always be equal to 1. Let us consider the previous example. We considered the fraction 3/7, and we found out that the reciprocal of this fraction is 7/3. Now let us consider the product of these two fractions. That is, let us multiply these two fractions. Now how do we multiply two fractions? We write the fraction line, and the numerator of the resultant fraction will be the product of the numerators of the original two fractions, and the denominator of the resultant fraction will be the product of the denominators of the original two fractions. So in the numerator, we have 3 times 7, and in the denominator, we end up with 7 times 3. Now let us simplify this. 3 times 7 is equal to 21, and we divide this by 7 times 3, which is equal to 21. Now whenever the numerator and the denominator of a fraction are equal, the result will be 1. That is, 21/21 is equal to 1. And so we can see that the product of the fraction 3/7 and its reciprocal 7/3 is equal to 1. Basically, if we have any fraction of the form a divided by b, then the reciprocal of that fraction will be b divided by a. This is because the numerator of the original fraction a is the denominator of the new fraction, and the denominator of the original fraction b is the numerator of the new fraction. So the reciprocal of a/b will be b/a, and what happens when we multiply these two? We write the fraction line. In the numerator, we multiply the numerators of the original two fractions, and in the denominator, we multiply the denominators of the original two fractions. So we have a times b in the numerator, and in the denominator, we can write b times a as a times b using the commutative property of multiplication. So we end up with a times b in the numerator and a times b in the denominator as well. The numerator and the denominator are the same, and so our result will be 1. And so the product of the fraction a/b and its reciprocal b/a will be equal to 1. Another thing we need to remember is that the only number that does not have a reciprocal is 0. That is, every number except for 0 has a reciprocal. Now, why does 0 not have a reciprocal? Let us consider the number 0. Now, if we divide any number by 1, we end up with that same number. So we can write 0 as 0 divided by 1. Now, what is the numerator of this fraction? It is the number on top, that is 0. And what is the denominator of this fraction? It is the number on the bottom, that is 1. Now, we want to find its reciprocal, so we write the fraction line, and the numerator of the original fraction now becomes the denominator of the new fraction, and the denominator of the original fraction now becomes the numerator of the new fraction. So the reciprocal of 0/1 will be 1 divided by 0. However, we cannot divide by 0. Division by 0 is undefined. And because of that, this is not a real number, and so the number 0 does not have a reciprocal. Now let us have a look at a few practice problems. Let us determine the reciprocals of the given fractions. Now the first fraction is 3 over 4. The numerator of this fraction is the number on top, so 3 is the numerator. And the denominator of this fraction is the number on the bottom, so 4 is the denominator. So let us determine the reciprocal of this fraction. We write the fraction line, and the numerator of the original fraction 3 will become the denominator of the new fraction, and the denominator of the original fraction 4 will become the numerator of the new fraction. And so this is the reciprocal of 3 over 4. That is, the reciprocal is 4 over 3. Now let us have a look at the next problem. We have 1 over 9. What is the numerator? That will be the number on top. That is 1. What is the denominator? That will be the number on the bottom. That is 9. Now we want to find the reciprocal. So we write the fraction line, and the numerator of the original fraction 1 becomes the denominator of the new fraction, and the denominator of the original fraction 9 becomes the numerator of the new fraction. So we end up with 9 divided by 1. Now any number divided by 1 is that number itself. So 9 divided by 1 will be equal to 9, and so this is our required answer. That is, the reciprocal of 1 over 9 will be 9. Now let us have a look at the next fraction. We have 13 over 11. The numerator is the number on top, that is 13. The denominator is the number on the bottom, that is 11. Now we write the reciprocal. First of all, we write the fraction line. The numerator of the original fraction will become the denominator of the new fraction, and the denominator of the original fraction will become the numerator of the new fraction. So the required reciprocal of 13 over 11 will be equal to 11 over 13. Now let us have a look at the next problem. We have 8 over 5. Now the numerator is the number on top, that is 8, and the denominator is the number on the bottom, that is 5. Now we want to find the reciprocal. So first of all, we write the fraction line, and the numerator of the original fraction becomes the denominator of the new fraction, and the denominator of the original fraction becomes the numerator of the new fraction. So this is our required answer. The reciprocal of 8 over 5 is equal to 5 over 8. Now let us have a look at our next problem. The next problem is 6. We need to find the reciprocal of the number 6. Now to do that, first of all, note that any number divided by 1 is itself. So instead of 6, we are going to write 6 over 1, because 6 over 1 will be equal to 6. Now we can see that the numerator is the number on top, that is 6, and the denominator is the number on the bottom, that is 1. Now when we write the reciprocal, first of all, we write the fraction line, and the numerator of the original fraction becomes the denominator of the new fraction, while the denominator of the original fraction becomes the numerator of the new fraction. So this is our required answer. The reciprocal of 6 will be equal to 1 over 6. Now let us consider our next problem. The next number we need to find the reciprocal of is 1. Now we can write 1 as 1 divided by 1, because if we divide any number by 1, we get that number itself. And now we can see that the numerator of this fraction is the number on top, that is 1, and the denominator is the number on the bottom, that is 1. Now when we write the reciprocal, first of all, we write the fraction line, and the numerator of the original fraction becomes the denominator of the new fraction, while the denominator of the original fraction becomes the numerator of the new fraction. So we end up with 1 divided by 1, and that is equal to 1. And so this is our required answer. That is, the reciprocal of 1 will be equal to 1. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. See you next time.